Good morning, everyone, and happy Tuesday. Welcome to Thoughts and Coffee. Super excited to be here with you today. I don't know about you, but I'm feeling good about this week. This one's a really, really busy week for me. I'm doing a webinar a little bit later on today. I'm also part of the Four Kite Summit today, and I'm doing a couple of recordings today. I think in total, by the end of this week, I'm going to have gone live or done recordings. I think 8 of them by the end of this week. So it's a crazy week, but a really good one because it's something that I love doing. I love talking to supply chain leaders all about what is happening in this fantastic industry. So really excited for you guys to be here with us. My name is Sarah Barnes-Humphrey. I am the founder and host of Let's Talk Supply Chain, CEO of Ships. I'm also the host of the brand new conversation in diversity and inclusion called Blended, and we are recording another new episode next Monday, which I'm really, really excited about because it's all about transgender. And I know that I could learn so much more about that, and I can't wait to share that with you as well. We've got some really, really great guests lined up. All right. Let's talk about what is happening on Let's Talk Supply Chain for this week. So our brand new episode this week is, it's telling me that I'm going live. I know that I'm live. Look, I'm doing it live. It's a brand new episode with Steve from Where to Go, and we're talking about creating smarter fulfillment networks. So we all know that there's a few challenges happening in distribution right now, and Where to Go is changing the landscape of warehousing, and they're making it more flexible for their customers, which is amazing. And one of the things that he said in our interview, if you can meet those demands of transparency, delivery speed, reliability, and easy returns, you're going to position yourself to win. And one of the challenges that I'm talking to a lot of supply chain leaders about is the challenge on the return side of things, and Where to Go can definitely help with that. So if you're interested to learn more about Steve and about what they're doing over at Where to Go, it's episode 203 wherever you subscribe to the Let's Talk Supply Chain podcast. Plus, we've got it over on our podcast page at letstalksupplychain.com. What else do we have? We have some events coming up. Look, this afternoon, again, I am going to be with Sarah Scudder talking all about sustainability and sustainable packaging for the Canadian Health Food Association. It is free for members. There is a really low cost for anybody else that wants to join us. Feel free to go to the Let's Talk Supply Chain LinkedIn page and register. Or maybe AJ, can you put the registration link for that in the comments, and you can register for that. That is happening this afternoon at 1 p.m. Eastern, and I'm really looking forward to that. I mean, if anybody knows Sarah Scudder, they know that she knows her stuff in sustainability and packaging. Next, on Wednesday, June 30th, I've got a webinar coming up with Coupa, and it's all about building supply chain resilience, lessons from disaster response. Cannot wait because we're going to be sharing some research from MIT, and it's going to be a really great webinar. So again, we've got this post over on our LinkedIn. You can go and register there as well. And then we've got Manifest in January. We've got 2 other events happening as well. So this afternoon, tomorrow, and Thursday, I'm going to be part of the Four Kites End-to-End Supply Chain Summit. So would love to see you there for that as well. And what else? E2 Open. E2 Open is happening next Thursday morning, I think. And we're going to be having a really, really great webinar about Control Tower. So AJ, can you put the registration links for all of those into the comments? So you're going to find that in the comments if you want to go and register for any of those events. Would love to have you there. And then next week, we've also got a brand new live show. So Abby Baird, she actually runs the TikTok for Let's Talk Supply Chain, and she is a student at the University of Arkansas. And she's a student in supply chain. And so she is going to be running one of our brand new live shows Thursday, June 24th at 12:30 p.m. Eastern. We're going to go live just like this across all of our social channels. I'm going to be her first guest, and we're going to be talking all about what you can expect coming up on her show, and so much more. And I can't wait to share that with you. So hopefully you guys are going to join us for that. Plus, Eric Johnson. This is a brand new announcement. Eric Johnson. So you guys might want to sit down for this one. Eric Johnson is going to be hosting one of our brand new live shows coming out in July. That's going to be happening on a Friday. I think it's July 16th at 10 a.m. Eastern. He is going to be doing that live for 45 minutes. So if you guys follow him, you know that we have featured his blog, the Log Tech Letter, on this show several times. And he's also run the Log Tech event for JOC in the past. He is going to be doing a brand new live show called Log Tech Live with Eric Johnson in partnership with Let's Talk Supply Chain. And he is going to be talking all about logistics and supply chain tech. And that one's going to be sponsored by Chain.io. And we are super excited because we are building out we are building out that content. We are building out a bunch of live shows that we are going to be announcing over the next several weeks that are going to be coming out between now and the end of July that I cannot wait to share with you. It's so exciting. Anyways, well, without further ado, I think we need to bring Audrey in. I mean, enough about Let's Talk Supply Chain. We need somebody else on stage. So good morning, Audrey.
Good morning. I'm super excited for Coming in Hot with Abby Baird and Eric Johnson's new show. I'm so excited.
I know. I'm so excited. I think it's going to be great. I mean, you and I have both been to a Log Tech event, and it was really fun, really great. They're not doing it anymore. They're going to be pairing it with TM. It's called Colorado. But now we get to do it live. We get to talk to Eric live. We get to hear what's going on in technology and supply chain and logistics. And I'm so excited. So introduce everybody. Introduce yourself to everybody so everybody knows who you are.
Right. Hi, I'm Audrey Ross. I'm here in Toronto, Canada. I'm a logistics and customs specialist in cosmetics, beauty supplies, bath accessories. What else? I have not had a coffee this morning, and it's probably going to show. But yeah, here we am, and I'm excited.
Where is your coffee? This is Thoughts and Coffee. I think you got the memo this morning.
What we talk about later is maybe I had a bit of a late night, working in supply chain and logistics, and so I'm a little disorganized. This morning.
Oh, we are going to talk about that, aren't we? We are definitely. And you know what? That is a good segue. That is a very good segue into. So you guys know that we do a question of the week every single Wednesday morning, right? Across our Let's Talk Supply Chain social media. So every Wednesday morning, we ask a question. We're changing it up now. So one week, I'm going to be asking the question by video, and then the next week, we're going to be doing a poll. So this week is our week for our first poll. And so the poll question is, how many hours do you work each week? And I think there's 4 answers. It starts with 0 to 39, and then it ends with 60 plus. And so in saying that you were up late last night, how many hours are you working right now?
I don't think it's 60 plus. Oh, yeah, I don't think so. No, it's definitely, it's a lot though. It's a lot. With the panning, the supply chain's a bit out of control. And so it's definitely become, it's such a weird schedule. So it's the hours. So I'll probably say that I'm at, maybe, 50 plus hours, but it's the weird schedule where I'm up in the morning for Europe, I'm checking in the evening for Asia. And then, then there's the rest of, managing your colleagues and customers during the middle of the day. So the time zone thing is kicking in hard right now.
Yeah. I think you're working 60 plus hours. Look, Maria says she's
Maria's at 45. Yeah.
That's nice. I need that. I think I'm working 60 plus right now. And you know what? And for supply chain leaders, I mean, pre-pandemic, you were working a reasonable amount of hours. But post-pandemic, I mean, like you just said, the hours are all over the place. I don't even know how we get anything done in a day.
Yeah. And it's a weird shift because, sort of pre-pandemic, you'd have times where you were busier than others. So for me, a lot of my manufacturing in China, the lead up to Chinese New Year, you'd have about 4 days before where it's like you were doing a lot of back and forth in the evenings. And so that was like an extra week of work. And then in the summer, you'd have some, extra longer time in the summer through July, August, and September during those sort of peak seasons. But now that everything is peak season all the time and it's a mess, you're just kind of playing whack-a-mole to kind of try and keep on top of it.
I saw that. I saw that in an article the other day, or maybe it's an article that we're going to talk about today. I don't know.
I think it's an article we're going to talk about. I probably just stole it from some.
I think you did. So I want to say hi to everybody on my page. We've got Samir, we've got Rhonda. Hey guys, so glad that you guys could join us as well. What else are we talking about? Oh, we need to talk about my Thoughts and Coffee post.
Oh, so right.
Sunday, look at this. I keep getting all these notifications that I'm live.
Surprise. We know. We're here.
So the article that I put together and wrote on Sunday was all about age. So you guys know that I'm hosting Blended, which is the new conversation in diversity and inclusion. And we're talking all about different topics in diversity and inclusion. And one of the topics that is going to come up by the end of this year is ageism, right? And not just about the biases that we have about age itself, not only on others, but also on ourselves, right? Because we have so many notions and so many things. I think we're guided by, what we hear and what we see and everything like that. But what I wanted to do was give some inspiration, right? So Samuel L. Jackson scored his first big role at 43 years old. Momofuku Ando invented instant ramen noodles at 48 people. Okay, at 48. And Joy Behar became a host on The View at 55. So if that doesn't tell you that everything is possible or anything is possible, I don't know what will. Because a lot of times, when we get a little bit older, and I see it in some of the comments on LinkedIn, I'm inching closer to 40. I need to do something with my life, But 40 really is the new 30. I mean, so what did you think when you saw this? And what are your thoughts on how we think ourselves on age?
Yeah, I think a couple things. One, we have this tendency to view youth as kind of a time of accomplishment, when really some of the activities that you want to do take years of building experience and making connections and coming up with, sorting out yourself mentally and being, mature enough to actually be able to perform or facilitate these kinds of roles. Like if you start to think about it, some of these, like being 22 and achieving everything, what happens when you're 23? What do you do with yourself? So there is this kind of push, from all of us that it's like, oh, it's so great being young, and you're like, and it was fun, but there's a lot more that happens after, your 20s. And the other piece I want to kind of mention too is you see us pit, with regards to your diversity and inclusion, and you see people pit ages against each other and generations against each other. And I think it's sort of a lazy or cheap way to get, you see it in media a lot, you see it in people's blogs and stuff. And I think it's not nuanced enough. It's really kind of a lazy way to just, like, it's almost clickbait, right? Where it's like, oh, the boomer generation says this, and now what are the millennials going to do? And not to say that there aren't valid demographic concerns economically or public policy wise that affect people differently during different times of their lives, but seeing people kind of go at each other because it's like, oh, well, you're 50 and you're 20. So it's just kind of like, it's not inclusive, absolutely, because then it makes people feel kind of icky, and then it's not effective. It doesn't change anything. It doesn't contribute. So I think this is such a great post to say, not just the external piece, but internally, are you using age as simply another way to be stuck in your fear or stuck in your head? And if we can kind of, as soon as you bring awareness to your fear, it's like, okay, now that I know that I'm afraid of failure, now that I know I'm afraid of people thinking that I'm a certain age and it's going to be weird, you can kind of get over that, hopefully, and do whatever your awesome self is going to be up to at whatever age you are.
Exactly. So Peter said he retired at 56, and then he asked, "I got a pallet of pavers and
Is he working?
Does that count as work or leisure?" So for somebody like me who doesn't like to do that kind of stuff, that would be work. So Peter, you are still working, and I expect that by the time you're 57, you're going to invent something like ramen noodles, maybe. Or you're going to end up on a live show. Actually, when you're 56, you end up on a live show twice. Because I think you're on live. You've been on live on some supply chain shows twice in the last couple of months. Anyways. All right. We need to start talking about our supply chain topics. All right. So the first one, which is the title of this episode, is stress supply chains. Let's talk about this. So we're going to talk about it from a few different standpoints because the articles that I have today all come at it from very, very different angles. The question that I have for the audience around this particular article is, what shortages are you seeing? Because in this Forbes article, they're talking about how 2021 is now the year of, what does it say? They're calling 2021 the year of stress supply chains and shortage economy. That's what 2021 is going to be known as. I mean, I would rather it be known as just the year of supply chain. I think that's a little bit more, I don't know, upbeat. Right? Instead of like doom and gloom. But this article really talks about a lot of the shortages that we're seeing and how lumber and steel, the prices of that are going up. Chips, so the microchips that I think everybody is talking about, but seat foam for cars. And this, as far as I understand it, this goes back to the ice storm that they had in Texas, because it actually closed a resin refinery in Texas that made the seat foam for cars. And so the shortage that we're seeing right now actually is the impact that happened back in January, February, and is now, and it just gives us a clear indication of, you know, some of the things that we're hearing right now and what we can expect in a few months, right? Because that shutdown happened in February. We're now seeing the shortage in June, which is only a couple of months. We're seeing labor shortages, the freight prices. Okay, I mean, I don't know if we can't really talk about supply chain without talking about the freight prices, and we're going to talk about that a little bit more. But the freight prices, I just heard this morning, are going to go up to $35,000 for a 40-foot container. What? I'm just going to leave it there for a moment because I think the whole audience just went, what?
Can't do it.
It's crazy. So what did you think of this article? I've got a couple other things that I want to mention. I want to give you a chance.
I think it's a great article because he breaks it down really clearly, right? He's sort of got kind of three kind of three drivers. So talking about the global pandemic is sort of a rethink of offshore, and are we going to actually reshore, or shore, and are we going to consider having safety stock, right? Because a lot of us were running a just-in-time inventory model, and that certainly doesn't work when you've got medical or any sort of health-related items, and are we going to look at safety stock? The second one he talks about is labor and capital, which is just becoming massive as we see labor shortages, and not necessarily because people aren't there and ready to work, but people are not thrilled at working for minimum wage or in conditions that are unsafe after pandemic. You can look at the restaurant industry where you saw a lot of restaurant workers affected directly by COVID. So their coworkers were sick and maybe died. And so they were in these weird at-risk conditions. And two, having to deal with customers who wouldn't do like the basic stuff like wear a mask. So, they're just like, and the pay is pretty low to deal with those kinds of risk and that kind of hassle. And so I think this age of austerity that we've been living through since the 2008 is sort of ending. And if you manage to survive the pandemic, your kind of outlook on what work do I want to spend my day doing, even if you're in sort of, maybe a low income position or you're struggling, even then you're still going to maybe think about, do I actually want to do this? And the last point he brings up was the cybersecurity, which is becoming more and more noticeable. I think since 2017, there's been 4 attacks on like major vessel carriers. So specific in the supply chain and maritime, there's been 4 attacks on vessel carriers since like 2017, but even 2 attacks just in 2020 on MSC and CMA CGM. And for us in supply chain, if you're going to pay $35,000 a container, you're probably just going to pay that ransomware because we are all about timing here in supply chain. So I thought it was a great article with some really good points in there.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the ransomware attacks, because not only are they attacking, obviously the Steamship Lines, but they're also attacking private companies as well. And so we saw that with the pipeline, and they gave another example, and I can't remember what that is, but it just goes to show how the impact and the power and the money that it's going to cost, and how important cybersecurity really is. I mean, we've been talking about it, but not really talking about it. And now that it's affecting wallets, I have a feeling that we're going to be talking about it even more. And we're going to be putting, hopefully, safeguards in place so that this doesn't happen, because, with prices skyrocketing, we can't really afford it. But at the end of the article, they talk about the voice of business and labor need to be heard. And I think that was a critical part of this article, in the respect that they haven't been heard before. We now have labor shortages. It's affecting business. It's affecting everybody. And now we really, really need to open that space, create those safe spaces, and give them the voice and the platform. Awesome. So the next one we are talking about. So this one was interesting. Yes. I got this from G Captain. Is it G Captain?
Yeah.
Yeah, which I'd never even heard about. But I thought it was a really great article, and something that, ties in really well to what we were just talking about. And so the question that I have for you for this article in the audience is, how are you supporting local? And one of the reasons why I want to ask you that is because a big part of this article, they talk about how small to medium-sized businesses really aren't going to be able to sustain themselves with the freight pricing as they are. And so how do we support them? How are you supporting them right now? And maybe if you can share with us how you're supporting them, others can do the same, because small to medium-sized businesses all throughout the pandemic, and especially right now if they're importing product, are really, really feeling the pain the most. And I think that's where we really need to be able to show support, through hopefully our wallets, and buy a little bit more local, so that we can support them and support them through this, because they are going to have to look at different ways to bring products to shelves for everybody. But I was watching, what was I watching? HLN. I like watching HLN in the morning. Robin Mead. I don't know if you guys watch it in the States, but anyways, they were talking about the Ever Given. And they say that there are containers of Snuggies and bikes being held hostage on the Ever Given right now. And I mean, we heard everything about the Ever Given a couple of months ago. We haven't heard really anything recently. And it was interesting when I was watching that this morning. I thought I'd give you guys an update that there's going to be obviously a shortage in bikes and Snuggies, because they're stuck on the Ever Given and they're being held hostage for whatever negotiation and reasons. But what they were also saying in this article is that Steamship Lines, I think, reported last month $19.1 billion. And previous year was $9.1 billion. So they're reporting a huge spike in how much money, obviously, that they're making. But some of the retailers are talking about how the cost can't be passed on because of the economic impact that we've had throughout the pandemic. And so they're really in a bit of a rock and a hard place, right? Because they're having to spend more to get the product here. Demand is up, but they don't necessarily want to pass the costs along, because they want people to buy from them. And so I thought that was pretty interesting part of this article.
It really brings up a few good questions here. And even his point around, are we going to pass these costs on? And, are we going to pass these costs on? And at some point, the costs are going to get passed on. And I think the longer we stop or hold on passing them on, we're just living in this weirdly artificial period where customers are like have an idea that costs might go up, and like there's talk of inflation, and but it's and then the rest of us, the supply chain companies, are talking about all the losses that they're incurring, especially that we'll see through first and second quarter. And so there's a concern that as retailers or importers hang on to these losses, then that'll affect their recovery sort of as we move into this post-pandemic period. But with, as you mentioned, container costs are going over. I heard over 20, but apparently over $30,000 per container. That Yantian, the pandemic isn't actually over yet. So Yantian has, been a bit of a mess through June due to the pandemic specifically, just a flare up. And so I think we're in a weird time where the pandemic's not over, even though everybody wants it to be over. The costs aren't being passed on, even though the costs are significantly there. We're waiting for the, sort of economists express that there'd be a shift to experience costs. So, people spending on travel, but no one's really traveling, at least not really out of their own country. And yeah, my hot tip would be, if you are doing holiday shopping or have gifts or shopping milestones for the fall, buy that stuff now.
Do it now. Do it now. Or even asked about the
if you're small to medium, don't expect to be getting stuff in October or November. Like, start getting it now, because
Maria had asked the question about the chip shortage, and I was having this discussion last week, and they were like, Apple's going to be fine, but everybody else is going to have some issues. So if you need anything that has a chip, you need to buy that now. And Peter says that I've got 5 minutes left. Thank you, Peter. I do want to give a shout out over to my personal LinkedIn page. Chris is there, Jason's there, and commenting and bringing some great commentary there on my personal LinkedIn. And then Samir says, that's why my bike is on back order. Yes, Samir, your bike is on the Ever Given. It's being held hostage until somebody pays whatever money there is. I think $3,000 per container or something like that. But anyway, so our third article, quickly, because we only have 3 minutes. So Audrey, you have to be on your best behavior.
Okay.
The question that I have for you guys is, are the Steamship Lines going to get a run for their money? So Home Depot has come out and said they are going to buy their own boat. I mean,
if you can do it, I would have done it.
Right? I mean, it's just crazy, right? But the questions that I have around this is great for them, right? Great for them. Kudos to them, taking the power back, putting it into their own hands, getting their product across. However, that doesn't solve the port issues and the port backlogs. It doesn't help the Yantian lockdown. I mean, if they've got product coming out of Yantian, they still can't get it out of Yantian. So yes, to be able to move products, and it's 100%. And this, they were talking about how it went all the way to C-suite, and how C-suite got really, really involved with supply chain, and how they made that decision. And that boat is going to be on the water as of, I think, next month. But what happens? So what they're saying is the number one, so Walmart's number 1, Target's number 2, Home Depot's 3, Lowe's is 4, Ashley Furniture is 5 as to the biggest importers. But what happens to Home Depot's capacity when they get their own boat? Because Home Depot has a huge amount of capacity with those Steamship Lines. Do they use both? Does that capacity get moved to other people, hopefully, right? So that you can get your products moved? I mean, there's a lot of questions about this, but I think this is a really, really, really cool move. And I think it's the first, but I don't think it's going to be the last. 2 minutes.
No. And it's a hot topic in our community. Everybody's talking about this because it is a sort of a bold move. It's similar to the Peloton move, where it's like, we're just going to shell out a whole bunch of money and solve our problem with sort of an expensive fix. And not everyone can do that. So, you do see the disadvantages of being, a much smaller player. But to your point, hopefully they'll put their stuff on a boat and leave the rest of the containers for the rest of us.
But it'll be interesting to see what they're going to do about the port congestion, right? And then also if they've got product coming out of Yantian. Well, Peter, we have, I think we got through that article like super fast at lightning speed. We have 30 seconds left till the end of the fastest 30 minutes in supply chain. Davin says palsy. Yeah, I think that
Yeah.
Audrey would definitely agree with that as well.
Yeah.
Listen, guys, I am so excited. Thank you so much for joining us again today for Thoughts and Coffee. Next week, I don't know who my guest is for next week, but I'm going to have to go look that up and let you guys know. I'll let you guys know on Friday when I post about what's coming up for Thoughts and Coffee next Tuesday. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. Thank you, Audrey. I hope you guys have an amazing, amazing week ahead.